Well, FBI agents are carrying out an investigation at Donald Trump's Mar-A-Lago estate, apparently as part of a probe into whether the former U.S. president took classified records from the White House to his Florida residence.
For more on this, we welcome to CP24 Live at noon John Misick, editor-in-chief at the Pennsylvania Capital Star. Thanks so much for making time.
You bet. Good afternoon.
John, I want to backtrack a little bit. Can you start with talking about what goes into the process here before federal officials move in? What do they need before they can conduct a search like this?
Sure. I mean, at minimum, they need probable cause to move ahead with this. They need the signature of a federal magistrate or magistrate judge, or federal judge, pardon me. And in a case with this kind of gravity, where you are executing a search warrant against the former president of the United States, you have to think that this went all the way up the chain of command at the Justice Department, was reviewed by the head of the FBI, a Trump appointee, by the way, and was vetted as thoroughly as any search warrant application has ever been vetted before it was issued.
So, yeah, Chris Wray is, of course, Trump appointee. He's the head of the FBI, John.
That's
so,
right.
I've seen people saying, well, Trump should be really angry at whoever appointed him. That's Donald Trump. And Donald Trump seems to be very angry at the fact that, in his words, his Mar-A-Lago estate is being raided here. What can we learn from what Donald Trump has said about this?
That is some typically Trumpian hyperbole, Nick. I mean, this was a legally authorized, legally executed search warrant. The Secret Service, who provided former President Trump with security, were apprised beforehand that the FBI were coming. It's not like they went barging in there with a battering ram or something like that. I mean, they showed up. I assume they politely knocked at the door, presented the warrant. The Secret Service, also being a law enforcement agency, recognizes this process and let them go about their work. There was a typical Trumpian hyperbole in the statement, claiming this was comparing it to the Watergate break-in, which was a complete misdirection, although a bit of fortuitous historical timing, since the FBI visit to Mar-A-Lago happened 48 years to the day of the Watergate break-in. I don't think that was timed on purpose, but there's a nice bit of historical symmetry. It's important to underline here the legality of this process and the formality of this process. And this is not, guns blazing, going in there with battering rams. This was, I'm sure, a very disciplined and professional operation.
I want to ask more about the timing, John. What does this say about the state of the investigation, and do you expect charges may follow?
I have no insight into that, of course. I mean, there have been questions for the better part of a year about the former president's handling of classified and sensitive information going back to last February. We all sort of looked up, I think, last night, Nick and Chanel, and wondered when we heard about the FBI, okay, which investigation into the former president is this tied to? Goodness knows there are quite some number. How far this goes and whether charges are preferred, that's far above my pay grade. But certainly to have the FBI execute a warrant is a serious action.
When, if any time, John, do you think we would actually hear from the FBI? I realize they're not going to come out and say, here's what we found and here's all the evidence, but they haven't really said anything up to this point.
Yeah, having dealt with the FBI, I know that they are often reluctant to confirm that today is even Tuesday, Nick. But I'm sure they're going to have to explain at some point, either publicly or in court filings, which is probably more likely if those come to pass, about what the purpose of this investigation is and how it's going to proceed. Because certainly this is probably only the second time in at least 50 years where this kind of action has been taken against a chief executive of the United States.
Okay, and the backdrop of this story, John, is the fact that this person, Donald Trump, is running for re-election as well. So when you think about potential consequences or repercussions for this, if the FBI does find, a judge does find ultimately that he broke the law here, can he hold office again later on?
I shouldn't stress, he's running for re-election in all but name. It is widely expected that he will mount a bid in 2024. I think that might be putting the cart a bit ahead of the horse here. If he is arrested, if he is charged, arrested, and convicted, that would bar him from holding office again. But that is quite some distance down the road. This is the very beginning of a very lengthy process, and who knows how it's going to transpire from here.
Okay, lots to follow here, John. We'll chat again soon. Thanks so much for your time and perspective this afternoon. We appreciate this.
You bet.
Thanks, John.
Anytime.
Yeah.
Sure.